What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sobertube. Today's episode, we're going to have Vito, the sober dude, ask me a couple questions. I'm going to answer honestly with no preparation whatsoever. So, Vito, what do you got?
Brian, what was the weirdest thing you've done when you were getting high?
Okay, so what was the weirdest thing I ever did when I got high? We don't have enough battery for me to write that entire list in the camera. I will tell you one of the weirdest things I ever did when I got high. It always goes back to me being naked, which is not that beautiful of a sight. So when at the end of my addiction, most people would think this was weird, although I thought it was, not only acceptable but kind of enjoyable. I would strip completely naked, light a candle, hide in a walk-in closet, and I would do my drugs in the closet because I thought that there was FBI and SWAT teams around the house. And even though I was burrowed into this closet, every couple minutes I would jump out and I would check the windows in the house just to see when they were coming or, where they were. So yeah, that was one of the weirdest things I've ever done while doing drugs and alcohol.
What was the craziest thing you did in your addiction to your family?
One of the craziest things I ever did to my family and my addiction was my sister, Amy, was getting married, and I was in the wedding party. I woke up at 11 a.m., started smoking weed and getting drunk. By the after party, I was blacked out, drinking Goldschlager out of a vase. I took a vase off the table, dumped out the flowers in the water, and was filling up with this Goldschlager stuff. I got alcohol poisoning, and when we had a breakfast for the wedding party, I vomited on the entire table in front of the wedding party, and then I ran to my room, which was at a Holiday Inn, and I vomited on the table, front desk, in front of the clerk that worked at the desk. I vomited on the walls and doors of many rooms, and then I vomited on both beds in my room and on the mirror in my room, and, that was a strange wedding. Luckily, those two are now divorced, so hopefully when they remarry, they'll have a more calm wedding.
What was the hardest thing that you had to deal with when you were first getting sober?
The hardest thing I had to deal with when I was first getting sober was being comfortable in my own skin. I felt like I had just been born, like I came out of the womb. I remember the first time having an anxiety attack in my mom's apartment, just having to understand what I had turned my life into. I was a successful person who was now sleeping on a couch on unemployment with $0, with a car that was repossessed, and I was very challenged at how do I rebuild this again? And going to the mall for the first time felt weird. Going to the movies for the first time felt weird. Doing everything in life that at 27 years old for the first time felt like I had just been dropped on earth and I had to explore this world as a sober human being. It was very odd.
What are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep your sanity, your anxiety, your depression out of your body, out of your mind?
So to keep myself on track right now, I have sober people in my life, good friends that I reach out to. For the first time ever, honestly, I have been praying again. A friend of mine has, mentioned getting on his knees and praying, and that's something I'm doing now. And praying not for me, but praying for, first of all, to solve the problems in the world right now and to help the people in my life that need it, even my enemies, which is difficult sometimes. And spilling my guts on a daily basis, keeping my secrets that keep me sick and getting them out of my body makes me feel more free.
Last question is, what's your message to the mom, the dad, the aunt, the uncle that has a kid that's suffering? What should they do? What's your message to them?
I think the most important message I could give to a family member that has a sick person in their life is don't get used to it. I think that we normalize lunacy when we have someone that we love in our life, and we try and tiptoe around them and not get them upset and not make them aggravated, and we love them so much that we don't want to disturb them. And it doesn't actually help because they continue to run on the hamster wheel and keep their horrible addiction going, and there's no positive effects from us enabling somebody who's suffering. So my advice would be, don't normalize someone's addiction. It's an emergency. It's 911. The time is running out. Act immediately. Call someone, find a resource, connect, educate yourself. Don't try and be the doctor. Don't try and be the therapist. There's professionals out there. Reach out and grab a resource because it is an emergency.
Last question is, what do you think triggered your addiction? Because, like, for me, it triggered when I was younger. So what do you think triggered your addiction?
I have a new theory that every person on earth is built with an addiction in them, and it takes a trigger, like you just said, to spark it. Some people's is food and sex or love. I know that I was stressed out as a kid. I grew up poor. My dad left. I was super sad. I was worried about things kids shouldn't worry about, like money and bills. And I didn't have any of the things that any of my friends had. I felt left out, kind of. It was hard to be poor in a rich neighborhood. And when I smoked pot for the first time, I felt normal. It turned my brain off. But I wanted to feel like that 24 hours a day. And I never stopped chasing it. So the trigger was, once you start, you can't stop. And that's my story. Once the switch is on, it's incredibly hard without a giant intervention to turn it off.